Good evening, Watcher of Realms. What's going on, guys? Blunt Guts here. Thank you for joining my channel. I'm going to break down the weekend's banners here. But before I get to the banners, take a second, like the video, subscribe to my channel if you are interested in seeing my content going forward. Every like that you do put on this video does increase its visibility with the algorithm. That gets more eyes on my video. It really helps my channel grow. It's a free way that you can support me, so thanks in advance for doing that. One other thing I do want to very quickly address before I get to the banners is the whole Vorn situation. If you did watch my This Week in Watcher of Realms video that I did put out yesterday, I did say I was going to make another standalone video regarding the Vorn situation, and quite frankly, after giving it some thought, I decided I'm just not going to do that. I don't know that I really have anything else to say other than I'm incredibly disappointed in the way that Moonton chose to handle this situation. I think all of us should be deeply concerned about spending money in this game going forward, and I am, for at least the immediate future, going to advise everybody not to spend in this game, period. I certainly won't be. I don't think you should be either. Based on the way that they handled this situation, there's no way that you can know that they aren't going to make some kind of change to one hero or another, and that you can put any faith into the idea that you know what you're buying by getting a certain hero. Because they can make a substantive change, and your only compensation could be 100 diamonds or 2 or 3 stamina potions or something like that. It's a bad spot to be in when they charge so much for the things in this game. So I just recommend nobody does any spending, my perspective. But with that being said, let's get to the banners. And we're going to start off with a softball here. Special Invocation of Spirits. There's also a companion Divine Summoning banner with the same heroes on rate up for Yuri as well as for Phineas. Good heroes. I wouldn't say great heroes, but very good heroes. If there was a feature hero on this banner, I think unquestionably it would be Phineas, but both of these heroes are meta in different areas of endgame right now. So really a great banner. Unfortunately, it's coming on a weekend when Wukong is going to be featured as well, and that really diminishes the value of this banner, in my opinion. So with that said, let's go take a look at Yuri and Phineas's Awakenings. Yuri, awesome hero, featured in a lot of Apex anti-air arena teams right now. She is kind of like the closest thing to Lady Alexandra that you can get without getting Lady Alexandra. Now, she will be replaced in anti-air arena by Lady Alexandra when you do get her, but you can field a very competitive anti-air arena team, at least for the moment, with Yuri in place of her. So yeah, really, really cool hero. Unfortunately, her awakenings are just not all that great, but I will go through them very quickly here. The A1 gives you a 10% chance to inflict stun on the target. That's nice, not game-changing by any means. It's also just a 10% chance, and while she does hit a lot, that's just not high enough to be consistent. So I really don't like this awakening. The A2 is 300 attack. That is significant because her base attack is relatively low. So 300 extra base attack is a decent chunk that is going to increase the maximum attack you can get. Not a crazy boost, but you know, as far as A2s are concerned, very, very solid. The A3, this is probably the biggest one for her, is a damage increase that does scale based on the number of units that are in range. To get down to 1 unit, you will get a 40% damage increase. Now, the problem is that she just doesn't do enough damage as a single target damage dealer, which is when she gets the biggest benefit from this awakening to really make a massive difference. She's okay, but she's not great. If you are endgame, she is not going to be somebody that you will be bringing into any endgame boss encounter, a la Abyss 1, Guild Boss 2, Codexes, really anything like that. The A4 is plus 8% penetration. That's nice, but she doesn't have any inherent penetration in her kit. So just the 8% is not going to do a crazy amount for you, but you know, a little bit's better than nothing, right? And the A5 reduces AoE damage taken by 50%. This effect can be triggered up to 1 time every 20 seconds. You could remove that second sentence and I still wouldn't want to pull for this. 50% AoE damage reduction is nice, but really, again, only applicable in boss fights for the most part. And again, she's not going to be used in boss fights all that much. So in my opinion, if you are going to be pulling for Yuri, you really should just be pulling for the base copy. I don't think there's any value in pursuing any of these. If you are looking for a stopping point, if you're a whale and you're dead set on getting more Yuri Awakenings, the A3 is probably the best bang for your buck right there. But I think you're probably not going to be getting all that much for that A3 anyway. Again, her main use case at endgame right now is an anti-air arena, and more often than not, during that arena, you are going to have more than 5 targets in range, meaning you'll only be getting an 8% damage boost. So Phineas, on the other hand, I think is a really, really good hero. I think he's kind of underutilized. I think there's a lot of aspects to his kit that we don't have the right heroes in the game right now to really maximize. But I do think he's really, really valuable. There's a lot of things he does really well. He does a lot of damage. He is featured in a lot of the 60K Abyss 1 teams right now. And he's got some solid utility aspects to his kit as well, not to mention an exclusive artifact which allows him to place a damage reduction debuff on the boss pretty consistently. Honestly, more consistently than one of the heroes that I'm going to be mentioning later on in this video. So let's go through his awakenings right now. The A1 increases the base chance of Blade of Treachery by 5%, and Blade of Treachery can now inflict burning. Phineas gets penetration per stack of burning on the target. Being able to apply it himself is big for him. It does give him more penetration. On top of that, his exclusive artifact does provide a damage boost against targets inflicted with burning. So again, this is going to really enhance a lot of the things that he does do. On top of that, the extra chance to inflict Blade of Treachery, that is how he applies the bigger version of the damage reduction debuff I was just talking about. So that is really important as well. This A1 is really big for a lot of the stuff that he does well. So it really does mesh well with his kit. Love this A1. The A2 plus 5% attack. He has really high base attack, like I think top 3 in the game, at least top 5 in the game. He's got like 7,200 base attack. This is somewhere in the neighborhood of like 360 attack, multiplied of course by all of your attack bonus stats in your gear, which is really, really great. The A3, when an infernal ally uses their ultimate, the talent switches to granting crit damage increase to. So when an infernal ally uses their ultimate, he is going to give them a 20-second crit damage increase buff. Base, it is a 25% crit damage buff. When you get into A3, it's going to bump up to a 50% crit damage buff. This won't directly impact his own damage, but depending on the number of infernal damage dealers that you do bring on your team, this could be very impactful. It's not going to show up directly in the damage meters for his damage, but it is going to increase your overall team damage. The A4 plus 8% penetration, he does have penetration in his kit. He can actually get up to 49% magic resist ignore, depending on the number of burning stacks that you can apply to the boss. So another 8% is like another free stack. Really, really great. Do love that. And then the A5 after the ultimate ends, 50% chance to retain Viscount's Flame. Viscount's Flame gives him a 25% per stack increase to his own crit damage every time an Infernal does use their ultimate. It stacks up to 5 times, meaning that you do get a 125% crit damage increase. Now, when you use the ultimate, the value of those stacks doubles, goes up to 250% crit damage. Typically, those stacks fade when the ultimate does end. This is going to give you a 50% chance to retain them. Now, it will go back down to 125% outside the ultimate, but it's really, really big. I don't know that I would necessarily say that you should be pulling for him because we've got so many things coming in the future. We've got the anniversary up ahead. And of course, Wukong is this weekend as well. So I don't expect a lot of folks to have a ton of summons available to apply towards Phineas. But the good news is that you're going to get most of the hero at A1. This is the biggest damage increase. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of a 15 to 20% damage increase at A1. Really great. I love this awakening. It meshes with so many different things. It enhances not just his damage, but it's also going to enhance the utility that he does as well. So really, really great, especially if you have his exclusive artifact. Beyond that, all of his awakenings are impactful to a degree. They're just not as impactful as the A1. If you are interested in seeing the impact on his damage for all these different awakenings, I will have a link to the testing I did do when Phineas was first released. I have a video out where I break down exactly what I found out. You're welcome to go and check that out for more details, and feel free to ask me any questions you do have in the comments. While I love Phineas, Wukong unquestionably is the featured hero this weekend. He is one of the best heroes in the game, probably my favorite hero in the game, certainly my favorite fighter in the game. I love Kagiri, who is the only other hero that does kind of compete with Wukong as far as damage is concerned, but I like Wukong a lot better. I think he is a lot more versatile. There's a lot more places you can use him, and I think that Wukong brings more to the table from a utility perspective than Kagiri does. But they're both great heroes, don't get me wrong. So like I said, Wukong is really, really versatile. You can use him in a number of different places in the game. He's, of course, one of the best boss killers in the game, one of the best single target damage dealers in the game. You can also use him in GVG very effectively. You can also use him in Arena very effectively. And there are a number of codexes where he is a key piece of all of the top teams. So the A1 is a utility A1, but it is one of the best utility A1s in the game. The first time splitting hairs is triggered in each battle, allies within 2 tiles gain Monkey Business. Monkey Business is a buff that prevents death one time when the carrier takes fatal damage. It's basically a get out of jail free card. Dispels all debuffs on them and restores 50% of their max HP. Just beautiful. So nice, especially in GVG, but really in any kind of hard-hitting boss encounter as well. Even in Arena, there's just a lot of uses for this. It can really save your ass when shit hits the fan, so yeah, I really like this one. The A2 is plus 300 attack. That's nice, more base attack, always a good thing. The A3, Sage's Clone, has a 25% chance to inflict stun when dealing damage to enemies. This is going to help you out in Guild Boss 2 when you're trying to stack up The damage reduction stacks on the chainsaw phase. On top of that, it's great for crowd control in GVG. If the enemy is immune to stun when triggered, it instead deals an extra 150% damage one time. So if you are using this on a boss, you're going to get damage instead of a stun, which is a great caveat. I do love that. If the hero has Golden Glare, he will also gain 1 stack of Sunder. Accruing these Sunder stacks allows him to, on using the ultimate, ignore a bunch of defense, so really enhances his damage. The A4 plus 8% penetration, really good. The A5 is, I think, the best A5 in the entire game. I don't think there's much comparison either. It is huge. It's huge. So goddamn good. And there's some really good A5s in the game, but this one takes the cake. So I'm going to try to break this down quickly, but there's a lot going on in here. Increases the damage instances of splitting hair by 18. That doubles the damage, the number of hits, and thereby the damage of his ultimate. It's also going to raise Undaunted Might's stack cap by 25. Each stack increases damage dealt to elites or bosses by 1%. Now, it takes a while to stack these up. I think you gain 1 every 30 seconds or so typically. But in a really long fight like Guild Boss 2, this is a massive increase. It's essentially another 25% damage before the fight is over. After using Splitting Hairs, Golden Cudgel Strike's trigger chance increases by 35%, more than doubles the chance to do his bonus damage strike, which also applies Thunder, which also is going to give him Armor Ignore, and it's just crazy. That increase is going to last for 12 seconds. Really good. If you want to know which one of these to stop on, it's the A5. That you want as many Awakenings on this dude as possible. When you do have the opportunity to get like a top 3-4 hero in the game, guaranteed for 200 summons, that is something that I would certainly take advantage of. I think you should at the very least get the guaranteed copy. If you've got more summons available, then pull them. I mean, and hopefully you get lucky. With that said, I've had awful luck pulling on these limited banners, and there's going to be a lot of really good stuff coming up in the future as well. So I think there's no shame in just getting the guaranteed copy and resigning yourself to the fact that you may have to spend some unpolished soul stones on them in the future. I'll talk a little bit more about my perspective on that at the end of the video. And finally, we've got this ancient banner with Cassiel, a new hero, Arbiter fighter, 2-tile ranged fighter, mainly a single target damage dealer, and we've got Aracha on here as well. Yeah, I wouldn't pull on this banner. I like Cassiel. I think he's a good hero. He's not a great hero. I don't know if he's going to be like really good, like meta anyplace, except for single target arena. I don't even know if he's going to be meta there, honestly, because I don't know that he's going to be able to beat out the Valderon teams, but he is going to fill a role in the Arbiter faction, and I do like him. So I will go through his Awakenings real quick. I won't be going through my Awakenings for Aracha. You shouldn't be pulling on this banner. There should never be an ancient banner that has a Lord on it that you can pull from regular summons. I think that is just horrible resource management. If you do pull on a banner like this, it just doesn't make any sense. And I like Aracha. I think she's a good Lord, but no. Ancient summons are too valuable. They're too rare. They are too important for account development. It does not make sense to risk blowing your Lord Mercy on a base Lord like Aracha. Let's go talk about Cassiel's Awakenings. So before we get to the Awakenings, there's just a couple things that I do want to touch on here, because I do think that reading through his kit, you might think he does things that he really can't do all that effectively. The first is this Celerity of Mind passive here, and specifically this damage reduction debuff that he does apply when you have him fully skilled up. When he does get the bigger version of his ultimate, which will be a lot of the time, but not all of the time, he will apply a 30% damage reduction debuff on the boss, the big version of this debuff, for 10 seconds. The problem is that you will not have this up 100% of the time. It does mean you're going to take some big hits at potentially inopportune times in a boss fight. He does also have an auto ultimate, which means that you can't control when he's going to use his ultimate, meaning you couldn't potentially like save the ultimate, only use it when you do need the damage reduction. So this is essentially useless as far as I'm concerned. Maybe in single target arena might help you out there, but for a boss fight, when there are specific hits that you need to be worried about, this is not going to do it for you because you can't depend on it being up. The other thing I do want to touch on is this Fortified Blessing passive, which does allow him to share 50% of the damage that the unit in front of him does take. Now, if you are stacking him behind a tank and they are taking heavy damage, he's going to need enough HP to absorb half of that damage. Now, he has really high base HP. 31,497. I don't know if that's the highest in the game. It's certainly one of the highest in the game, but you're not going to be stacking HP percent main stack gear on him. So he's probably going to end up capping out around 80k HP in most cases. The only way you're getting beyond that is if you are sacrificing a lot of damage, and I don't think that that makes sense, because if you're doing that, why not just bring a second tank? When I was doing my testing in Nightmare 4, I did see his health drop dangerously low when he was sitting behind my Yuri, and it's scary to see how much damage he was taking in a boss fight that, while there's a decent amount of damage in Nightmare 4, that's like very old content. There were some times when he had just like a sliver of health left, and he had 45 or 50k HP in there. So not only is this going to make it difficult to use this in a damage soaking kind of way, but also it's going to limit your deployment options, because if you don't want him taking a bunch of extra damage, you can't put him behind anybody. I just don't love this about his kit. Let's go talk about the Awakenings. So the A1, when deployed, gains 3 stacks of Divine Sigil. That's great. Divine Sigil is a resource that he does use to gain extra rage. It also increases his damage, all tied to his ultimate. Really cool. It's going to give him a bunch of damage on deployment, but beyond that, it's not going to do all that much for him, because he generates that resource throughout the fight naturally anyway. So once you use those first 3, you're kind of where you were originally anyway. It's not going to do a ton for you. Now this next bit, when no enemies are within the ultimate range, restores 20 extra rage per second. I think the only place that this is going to be really impactful for him is potentially in single target arena, in between waves, or in between enemy spawns. It's going to help him get back to his ultimate quicker. But if you are in a boss fight, you're always going to have the boss there, which means the second aspect to his A1 is just never going to come into play. So I don't love this A1. And from what I've seen, it's not really at all impactful on his damage in boss fights. The A2 is plus 300 attack. That's nice, pretty standard. So the A3, when Divine Retribution is activated, increases single target damage dealt by the hero by 25%. So Divine Retribution, I know my head's in front of this. You don't really need to read it. This is essentially the bigger version of his ultimate. It is going to cast a lot of the time, but not all of the time. So you're going to be getting this 25% damage increase some of the time, but not all of the time. So it's good. I will say that most of his damage does come from his ultimate. So this is a very, very solid awakening. However, from what I've seen, his damage is not so good that this is going to really put him on par with the better single target damage dealers in the game, namely Wukong and Yuri. He's good, not great, and he's never going to get more than, say, like 65, 70% of their damage, even with this awakening. So good, impactful, but not going to put him on par with the units that do this job the best for boss killing. So the A4 is plus 8% penetration. However, remember I said that most of his damage does come from his ultimate, and he already, on his ultimate, ignores all defense, which is really cool. But it also means this penetration buff is not going to come into play at all when he is doing the lion's share of his damage. So I really don't like this A4 for him. I think there's a lot of other ones that would have been a lot more impactful. The A5, when Divine Retribution is cast again, that's the big ultimate, gains an additional shield equal to 25% of HP for 10 seconds. This is nice and is going to make his life a lot easier when he is soaking damage, which does address some of the concerns that I did express when I was going over his kit initially. That said, because he does have an auto ultimate, it is hard to control. And again, he's only going to get this shield when he does the big version of his ultimate, which is not going to be every ultimate he does cast. So I just don't think this hero's awakenings are really where it's at. Good hero. Don't be upset if you get him, but I wouldn't be pulling this weekend. He is certainly, in my opinion, not worth taking the risk for Aracha. But if you want to know more specifics about exactly how much damage he is gaining on all these different awakenings, I will have a video out tomorrow where I break down all of his damage. So please do stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you do get an alert when I do post that. And there you have it, guys. Every single unit that you, at least all the ones that you should be thinking about pulling for, broken down here. So I guess this is the part of the video where I tell you what I think you should do, right? And frankly, I think that if you don't have Wukong A5, then you really do need to at least get the guaranteed copy. Again, I don't think that anybody should be spending, but I do think that Wukong is just too good to pass up. They have just stacked banner after banner after banner that everybody wants to be pulling on. But all of these heroes have been really good, and Wukong is just another in a long line of heroes that has been worth pulling for over the past month and a half or so. With that said, I think we should all keep in mind that the anniversary is coming, and I think that Wukong, as good as he is yet another attempt to drain summons before the anniversary event. There will likely be a new limited hero that will be introduced, probably another Yuri banner as well. So I think for most of you, getting the guaranteed copy is probably where you should stop. I'd also keep in mind my own experience on the original Wukong banner, where I pulled close to 2,000 summons, and I think I pulled 17 different legendaries, and only one of them, aside from the guarantee, was Wukong. So I pulled probably $1,000 worth of summons, maybe more than that, and I just got a single extra Wukong for my trouble. What I'm trying to say is that even if you dump a bunch of resources in here, there's no guarantee you're going to get the rate up hero. I would just be careful with your spending. That's my advice to you. As far as the Phineas and Yuri banner, I just don't think it's worth pulling on given what is coming up in the near future. And I think that just leaves us with this Cassiel Aracha banner, which I would not touch with a 300-foot pole. This is a waste of summons, in my opinion. I like Cassiel. I think he's a good hero. I'm skeptical that he's going to be meta anyplace. If you're an endgame player, that is really what it's about. It's about spending your summons at a time when you can maximize your chances to get units that are going to be impactful for the content that you're trying to beat. I don't know that he's going to be that for you. He's a good hero. He's just not somebody that I would pull when the hero that he's paired with is Aracha, who is somebody that you never should want to use your Lord Mercy on for ancient summons. So I'm going to advise everybody to just skip. Unless you're a massive whale and you have all the lords in the game at A5 and blah, 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 then, you know, I guess have at it. You're going to pull no matter what I said though, right? In any case, y'all, thank you so much for tuning into my channel. I truly appreciate it, as always. Take a second if you haven't already, and please click that thumbs up button. It really does mean the world to me. Subscribe to my channel if you aren't already subscribed. I know there's a lot of you that do watch my stuff regularly that are not subscribed at this point. Other than that, good luck, everybody, on your pulls. Sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think you're going to be doing. If you are going to be pulling, good luck to you. I hope you get a million Wukongs and, you know, A5 Yuri and all Cassiels and no Arachas. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I will catch you all next time.